Welcome to Echo of Seam YouTube channel. Truck stops are never quiet, even at 2 a.m. Engines rumble, diesel pumps click, and tired drivers shuffle in and out of the convenience store. But on the night of June 14, 2017, the huge truck stop off Interstate 70 near Terre Haute, Indiana, felt different. It felt watched. A light drizzle fell over the parking lot, giving everything a cold blue shine under the overhead lamps. Truckers later said the air that night felt too still, too heavy, like the entire place was holding its breath. At 1:16 a.m., the security cameras picked up a man walking in from the dark highway shoulder, not from a parked car, not from a semi, but directly out of the shadows. He wore a hooded jacket, gloves even though it was warm, and kept his head low. He didn't enter the store. He didn't buy food. He just walked, slowly, deliberately, row by row between the parked trucks. On camera 4, he appeared behind a semi, paused for exactly 7 seconds, then moved again. On camera 6, he leaned close to the passenger window of a sedan. On camera 12, he walked toward a row of parked semis, only to vanish for 3 full minutes in a blind angle the camera couldn't reach. Truckers later said the same thing. He wasn't wandering. He wasn't lost. He was looking. At 2:32 a.m., a young woman named Rachel pulled into the truck stop, driving a dark blue Ford Escape. She was traveling alone, heading from Illinois to Kentucky for a work trip. Exhausted from the long drive, she parked beside a diesel pump even though she didn't need fuel. She just wanted a well-lit area before walking inside. Camera 8 shows her locking her door, adjusting her jacket, and walking straight toward the convenience store entrance. Camera 7 shows something else. The hooded man stepping out from between 2 trailers, turning his head, and watching her the entire time. He waited until she disappeared inside the store. Then he walked toward her SUV, not rushing, not nervous, taking his time. He tested the driver's door. Locked. He tested the rear door. Locked. He walked around the back of the vehicle, stopping long enough for the camera to catch him staring into the tinted window of the cargo area. Then he crouched down behind the bumper, just outside the brightest light, hidden between the SUV and a parked semi. When Rachel came back outside, she didn't notice him. Most people wouldn't. She unlocked her door, opened it, put one leg in, and that's where the public footage ends. The next 3 minutes, the part investigators never released, began the moment the hooded man rose from behind her bumper. Whatever happened next was so serious, so linked to other incidents, that police redacted it entirely from reports. But what the cameras did show in the seconds before the blackout in the footage was the most chilling detail of the entire night. The man wasn't acting alone. On the far edge of the lot, camera 15 captured a second figure standing under a flickering blue light, watching everything. Rain tapped lightly against the truck stop awning as Rachel opened her SUV door. She placed her drink inside the cup holder, tossed her receipt onto the passenger seat, and took a deep breath before settling in for the remaining hours of her drive. On camera 7, everything looked normal. But camera 9, positioned at an angle the public never saw, recorded something else entirely. At 2:47 and 12 seconds a.m., the hooded man rose from behind Rachel's rear bumper. He didn't run. He didn't hesitate. He moved with quiet confidence, stepping forward in a straight line toward her open door. Then the cameras flickered. The truck stop surveillance system was old, several years overdue for an upgrade, and certain angles glitched when lights flickered outside. The footage jumped ahead 2 seconds, just long enough for the man to leave the camera's clean frame. During those 2 seconds, Rachel felt something. Not a touch, not a sound, just an instinct. The kind of instinct that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand straight up. She paused and glanced into her driver's side mirror. Nothing. She pulled her leg back out of the car to stretch, turning her head toward the far end of the lot, the exact moment the hooded man froze behind her SUV's open door, completely hidden from her view. Meanwhile, camera 15, the far lot camera, caught the second figure again. This one wasn't moving. He stood near the dark edge of a semi-trailer, half covered by shadow, hands tucked inside his pockets. Every time Rachel shifted, he leaned his head slightly, watching. Investigators later said he was coordinating, but never explained what that meant. At 2:47 and 59 seconds a.m., Rachel closed her door halfway and leaned into her seat to put her bag on the floor. That motion gave the hooded man his chance. He stepped forward. The footage jumps again. A 3-minute segment, the segment police refused to release, begins here. What is known comes from officer testimony and sanitized report excerpts. Rachel screamed. A trucker in a nearby cab heard it. The hooded man fled toward the diesel lanes. The second man disappeared into the darkness at the back of the lot. The unreleased footage shows more, but police never disclosed it. The only publicly confirmed detail is that Rachel ran toward the convenience store entrance, waving her arms and shouting for help. That part of the footage was released, shaky, blue-tinted, and blurred by rain droplets on the lens. Inside the store, 2 workers immediately called 911. At 2:49 a.m., the hooded man sprinted across the lot, ducking between trailers, eventually disappearing into the heavy shadows where camera 15 lost its angle completely. Rachel collapsed near the counter, crying, breathing fast, unable to speak clearly for several minutes. When officers arrived less than 10 minutes later, both men were gone. But they left something behind. Near the row of parked semis, close to where the second figure had stood, police found a discarded rubber grip from a pair of gloves, torn as if removed in a rush. Next to it was a single muddy boot print, partially washed out by the drizzle, but large enough to match a size 13 work boot. Truckers, who were woken by the commotion, began talking to officers. Every description matched. A hooded man, moving calmly, avoiding the lights, appearing behind people without making a sound. But one trucker said something different, something investigators later highlighted. That wasn't the first time I saw him tonight. According to the trucker, the same hooded man had walked past his cab over an hour earlier, staring directly into truck windows as if checking who was alone. Another driver claimed he'd seen the man 2 nights before at a rest stop in Illinois. Another claimed he'd seen him in Missouri the previous week. 3 states. Same behavior. Same appearance. But now something was different. For the first time, someone had fought back. And for the first time, the cameras had captured an interaction, the very segment police refused to make public. Whether because it connected to other cases, or because it showed something worse. No one outside investigators has ever seen those 3 minutes. But everyone agrees. Whatever happened between 2:47 a.m. and 2:50 a.m. was not random. It was planned. And it didn't end in Indiana. The Terre Haute police arrived fast, 6 patrol cars sweeping the truck stop with lights reflecting blue across the wet pavement. Officers interviewed the workers, the truckers, and Rachel, who was still shaking, trying to explain between breaths. But the problem became clear almost immediately. The man was already gone. Both of them were. Dashcam footage from a responding officer showed the entrance road empty. No running figure. No idling vehicle. No signs of a getaway. It was as if the men had melted into the darkness. Investigators began pulling all security footage, not only from the truck stop, but also from nearby gas stations, rest areas, and the traffic cams leading toward the interstate. They worked through the night, pausing the videos frame by frame. Something disturbing appeared in the recordings. The hooded man had been at the truck stop since 1:16 a.m., but he was not alone. A second man, the one standing under the flickering blue light, had arrived earlier than anyone expected, captured faintly on a distant camera at 12:43 a.m. That meant he had been watching the lot for nearly 2 full hours. Not wandering, not resting, watching. The investigators zoomed into the footage where possible, but rain distortion, shadows, and camera quality made the men nearly unidentifiable. Only outlines, a hood, gloves, and dark clothing were visible. Still, one detail stood out. Both men avoided light. Not accidentally, intentionally. They moved only through dim paths, never entering a fully illuminated zone. In one clip, the hooded man stopped just inches from a bright spotlight, then stepped backward into the dark instead of forward. In another clip, he seemed to time his movements with passing trucks, letting their headlights mask his shape. These weren't impulsive actions. These were practiced behaviors. Police ran the boot print they found near the semis through all available databases. There were 2 possible matches from nearby counties, both belonging to men with priors related to stalking at public rest areas. But neither suspect could be tied directly to the night's events. Then the investigation shifted. When one detective cross-referenced Rachel's story with similar 911 calls from nearby states, a chilling pattern emerged. Illinois, woman reported a man approaching her car at a truck stop. Missouri, 2 drivers reported a hooded man checking vehicle handles. Ohio, trucker awakened to someone looking inside his cab window. Kentucky, a solo driver claimed a man followed her from the fuel pumps. 5 states. Same description. Same behavior. No arrests. The Terre Haute investigators reached out to law enforcement across these states. Every department confirmed the same thing. There was footage, but none of it clearly showed a face. As the multi-state task force reviewed the video from Indiana, they identified something almost everyone had missed. In a brief, nearly invisible reflection on a truck's chrome bumper, the hooded man appeared to be speaking, not yelling, not whispering, but signaling, toward the second man, toward the shadows. A coordinated pattern. The segment of footage police refused to release, it was now believed to contain evidence of exactly how the 2 men worked together. Rachel later told investigators, "It wasn't random. I felt like he knew exactly what he was doing." Meanwhile, truckers started coming forward online, saying they had seen the same man weeks or months earlier. One said the man approached his truck while he was half asleep and only ran when the trucker hit the horn. Another said the man vanished between 2 trailers and never came out the other side. Reports increased. Sightings spread. Patterns emerged. But something terrifying became clear. No one had ever seen the men arrive in a vehicle, and no one had ever seen them leave in one. They simply appeared at truck stops and vanished in the same direction, always toward the dark, unlit edges of the lot. The FBI quietly took over the case, citing multi-jurisdictional connections. The truck stop cameras from the Rachel incident, including the 3-minute redacted segment, were sealed under federal review. To this day, no official suspect name has been released. No arrests made public. No full footage shown. But truckers still talk about that night. About the hooded stranger. About the second man watching from the shadows. And about the feeling that the incident in Terre Haute wasn't the end. It was the first time the cameras caught what had been happening for years.